I was standing in my kitchen on a Friday evening in early December, string lights reflecting off the granite countertops I saved 3 years to afford, when my phone buzzed with a text from my mother that made my entire body go cold. The message included a screenshot of a resort booking page. My mother wrote, "Found the perfect place for Christmas this year, Lake Tahoe Cabin, $18,000 for the week. Can you Venmo me half by tomorrow? Your brother and I will cover our portions later. Can't wait." I stared at that message for a solid minute. The pasta water behind me bubbled over onto the stove, hissing and spitting, but I didn't move. $18,000. Half by tomorrow? My brother would cover his portion later, which was code for never. This was my life now. I'm Felicity, and I'm 34 years old. I work as a senior patents examiner for the government, which sounds boring but actually pays well once you've put in the years. I bought my townhouse in Riverside Heights 4 years ago, paid off my student loans 2 years before that, and I lived on ramen and grocery store rotisserie chickens for most of my 20s to get here. My family acted like my money appeared by magic. The Lake Tahoe text wasn't even the worst of it. That same week, my sister Brianna called me on a Tuesday afternoon when I was reviewing a pharmaceutical patent application. She didn't bother with hello. Brianna said, "Hey, so Caden needs braces. The orthodontist wants $12,000 for the full treatment. I figured you could cover it since you don't have kids. It's not like you have anything else to spend money on." Caden was her 7-year-old son, my nephew. I loved him. But $12,000? I took a breath and kept my voice steady. I responded, "Bree, I can't just pull $12,000 out of thin air. That's a huge expense." She laughed like I'd told a joke. Brianna replied, "Felicity, you make like 6 figures. Don't be dramatic. Besides, you owe us. We helped you so much when you were younger." That last part made something crack inside my chest, but I swallowed it down. I told her I'd think about it and ended the call. The truth was, my family hadn't helped me when I was younger, not really. When I was 19 and working 2 jobs to pay for community college, my mother borrowed $4,000 from me for what she called an emergency home repair. I never saw that money again. When I was 23 and finally transferred to a 4-year university, my brother Logan asked me to co-sign a car loan because his credit was destroyed. I was stupid enough to say yes. He defaulted after 6 months, and I spent the next 3 years paying off a Dodge Charger I never even sat in. I gave them everything I had back then because I thought that's what family did. Now I was the one with a stable career and a retirement account, and they treated me like a personal ATM with no withdrawal limit. It started small after I got my first real job at 26. My mother asked me to cover her electric bill one month, just $70. Then it was the water bill, then her car insurance. Then my brother needed $300 for his daughter's birthday party. Then Brianna's husband lost his job and could I help with groceries for a few weeks. A few weeks turned into 11 months. I never said no. I thought I was being a good daughter, a good sister. I thought they'd remember this kindness when I needed help someday. That someday never came. Within 4 years, I was paying my mother's rent, covering Logan's phone bill, buying Brianna's kids' school supplies, funding family dinners at restaurants I couldn't afford to eat at myself. I was writing checks and Venmo transfers so often that my bank sent me a fraud alert. The week after Lake Tahoe text and Brianna's braces demand, my mother called me on a Sunday morning around 10. I was still in my pajamas, drinking coffee and trying to enjoy the one morning I had to myself. My mother announced, "We're doing Secret Santa this year, but elevated, $200 minimum per person. I already put your name in the draw. You got Logan." I closed my eyes. I asked, "Mom, why does Secret Santa need a $200 minimum?" She sounded genuinely confused by the question. My mother answered, "Because we're not doing cheap gifts anymore, Felicity. We're a successful family now. We should celebrate like it." A successful family.
I was the only one with a steady job. Logan worked part-time at a sporting goods store and spent his weekends day trading cryptocurrency. Brianna hadn't worked since Caden was born 7 years ago, and her husband bounced between construction gigs. My mother had been between opportunities for the past decade, which meant she hadn't held a job since I was in high school. But sure, we were successful. I told her I'd figure it out and hung up. That afternoon, I sat down and opened my banking app. I scrolled through 6 months of transactions, highlighting every payment I'd made to my family. Rent for my mother's apartment, Logan's car insurance, Brianna's grocery bills, my nephew's soccer league fees, my niece's dance costumes, the family dinner at that Italian place in Cedarbrook where everyone ordered appetizers and dessert, and I got stuck with the $400 check. The total came to $23,000 in 6 months. I felt like I couldn't breathe. $23,000? That was a decent used car. That was a year of retirement contributions. That was a down payment on a better future. Instead, it was gone. I thought about texting my best friend, Rosalind, but I already knew what she'd say. Rosalind had been telling me for 2 years that my family was using me. She called them parasites once during a wine night at her place, and I got so defensive we didn't speak for 3 weeks. I owed her an apology for that. The week before Christmas, things escalated in a way I didn't see coming. My mother called me on a Thursday evening around 7, which was already unusual because she normally texted. Her voice sounded strained, almost tearful. My mother said, "Honey, I need to talk to you about something serious." My pulse picked up. I thought maybe something was actually wrong this time. Maybe someone was sick. Maybe there was a real emergency. I asked, "What's going on? Are you okay?" She paused for effect. My mother continued, "I'm losing the apartment. My landlord is selling the building, and I have to be out by January 15th. I've been looking at places, but everything requires first month, last month, and a security deposit. I need about $8,000 to secure something." $8,000. I sat down on my couch and stared at the small Christmas tree I decorated the night before. White lights and silver ornaments, nothing fancy. I bought it from a grocery store parking lot for $40. I started, "Mom, She cut me off immediately. My mother interrupted. "Before you say anything, I want you to know that I didn't ask for this. I've been a good tenant for 4 years. This isn't my fault, and I don't have anyone else to turn to. Logan's broke, and Brianna's got the kids to think about. You're the only one who can help me." The only one who can help. The only one who ever helped. I felt something inside me shift, like a foundation that had been cracking for years, finally starting to crumble. I told her I needed time to think about it. She didn't like that answer. My mother replied, her voice sharp now, "Time to think about it? Felicity, I'm your mother. I raised you. I fed you. I kept a roof over your head. And now when I need help, you need time to think about it?" That old guilt wrapped around my throat like a rope. She was right, wasn't she? She did raise me. She did keep a roof over my head. Never mind that I'd been keeping a roof over hers for the past 4 years. I promised her I'd figure something out and ended the call. The next day at work, I couldn't focus. I sat in my cubicle staring at patent diagrams for a medical device, but all I could think about was money. I pulled up a compound interest calculator during my lunch break and typed in $8,000. If I invested that instead of giving it to my mother, it would be worth over $17,000 in 10 years at a conservative 7% return. $17,000. My future, my security. But how could I say no to my own mother? That evening, Brianna texted me in the family group chat. Brianna wrote, "Mom told me about the apartment situation. This is really serious, you guys. We need to help her. Felicity, I know you're the one with the stable income, so maybe you can cover the bulk of it. Logan and I can chip in like $500 each." $500 each, so I'd be paying $7,000 while they performed the bare minimum to look helpful. Logan added his message a few seconds later. Logan chimed in, "Yeah, I can do 500. Might take me a few weeks to get it together, but I'm good for it." He wasn't good for it. He'd never been good for it. I didn't respond to the group chat. Instead, I opened my laptop and started researching something I should have looked into years ago: financial boundaries, family exploitation, how to say no. The articles I found made me feel like someone had written my life story. There were entire support forums for people like me, people who'd been designated as the family cash cow and didn't know how to escape. I read for 3 hours straight, and by the end of it, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Angry. Not sad, not guilty. Angry. Because I realized that my family didn't see me as a person. They saw me as a solution to their problems, a resource to be tapped whenever they needed something. And the worst part was, I'd trained them to see me that way. Every time I said yes, every time I transferred money without question, I reinforced the idea that my money wasn't really mine. It was theirs.
The Saturday before Christmas, my mother called again. This time, she was crying. My mother sobbed, "I don't know what I'm going to do, Felicity. I've been looking at apartments all week and I can't find anything affordable. I might end up homeless. Is that what you want? Your own mother on the streets?" Something inside me snapped. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet, final break. I took a breath and said the words I should have said years ago. I stated, "Mom, I can't give you $8,000. I don't have it." That wasn't entirely true. I had it, but it was mine, and I needed to start acting like it. Silence on the other end of the line. Then her voice turned ice cold. My mother hissed, "You don't have it? You just bought a house. You make 6 figures. Don't lie to me." I felt my hands shaking, but I kept my voice steady. I corrected, "I bought a townhouse 4 years ago, and I'm still paying the mortgage, and I make good money, but that doesn't mean I have $8,000 sitting around to hand out." My mother let out a bitter laugh. She spat, "You know what? I see how it is. You get a little success, and suddenly you're too good for your own family. I should have known you'd turn out selfish." Selfish. That word landed like a slap. I'd given her tens of thousands of dollars over the years. I'd paid her rent, her bills, her groceries. I'd covered Logan's mistakes and Brianna's shortfalls. I'd funded family vacations I couldn't even attend because I was working overtime to afford them. And I was selfish. If you've ever been the person your family depends on financially, drop a comment and let me know how you handled it. I'd love to hear your story, because I was about to hit a breaking point I never saw coming. My mother continued before I could respond. She declared, "Fine, don't help me, but don't come crying to us when you need something someday. Family is supposed to be there for each other, but apparently that only goes one way with you." She hung up. I sat there holding my phone, staring at the screen, and I felt something unexpected. Relief. Because for the first time in my adult life, I'd said no. And even though she was furious, even though she'd called me selfish, I knew I'd done the right thing. The problem was, my family wasn't done with me yet. 2 days after I told my mother no, the family group chat exploded. It started with Brianna on a Monday morning around 8. Brianna messaged, "So I guess Felicity is just going to let Mom become homeless? Real nice. I always knew you thought you were better than us." Logan piled on within minutes. Logan added, "Seriously messed up. We're supposed to be family, but I guess money changes people." I stared at my phone during my morning commute, watching the messages pile up. My mother sent a paragraph about sacrifice and disappointment. Brianna sent 3 more messages about how I'd always been selfish, even as a kid. Logan sent a gif of someone throwing money in the trash with a caption that read, "Felicity watching her family struggle." I didn't respond. I turned off notifications for the group chat and drove to work with my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. That evening, my Aunt Francine called. I hadn't spoken to her in over a year, so I knew exactly why she was reaching out. Francine began, her voice dripping with false concern. "Sweetheart, your mother called me in tears. She says you're refusing to help her with her apartment situation. I just wanted to check in and see what's going on with you." I could hear the judgment underneath the concern. I was the villain in whatever story my mother had told her. I responded, I can't afford to give her $8,000 right now. Francine made a sympathetic sound that didn't feel sympathetic at all. She pressed, Oh, honey, I understand money is tight, but this is your mother. Surely you can work something out. Maybe take out a small loan? It's only temporary. Only temporary. They always said that. I told Francine I had to go and ended the call before she could guilt me further. The weeks leading up to Christmas were brutal. My mother stopped speaking to me entirely. Brianna sent me passive-aggressive memes about fake family members. Logan blocked me on social media. Even my cousins started posting vague status updates about ungrateful people who forget where they came from. I spent Christmas Eve alone in my townhouse with a rotisserie chicken from the grocery store and a bottle of wine. My phone stayed silent. No calls, no texts, no holiday wishes. It was the quietest Christmas I'd ever had, and honestly, it wasn't terrible. I woke up Christmas morning and made myself pancakes. I watched old movies. I took a long walk through my neighborhood and looked at all the decorated houses. Families inside, probably arguing about politics or who ate the last cookie, but together. I felt lonely, but I also felt something else. Free. The peace lasted exactly 6 days. On New Year's Eve, my mother called me at 11 in the morning. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. My mother announced, her voice unnaturally cheerful, Hi, honey. I wanted to let you know that I figured out the apartment situation. Your Aunt Francine lent me the money, so everything worked out. No thanks to you, of course. I waited. There was always more. My mother continued, Anyway, we're having a family dinner at Brianna's house tomorrow, New Year's Day, around 4 in the afternoon. I think you should come and apologize for how you handled things. It's time to move past this. Apologize? I almost laughed. I asked, apologize for what exactly? She sighed like I was being deliberately difficult. My mother explained, for refusing to help your family when we needed you, for being selfish, for causing all this drama. Just come to dinner, say you're sorry, and we can put this behind us. I thought about it for exactly 3 seconds. Then I said, I'll be there. My mother sounded surprised but pleased. She replied, Good, I'm glad you're finally seeing reason. We're still family, Felicity. We love you. We just need you to do better. I hung up and immediately texted Rosalind. I wrote, Remember when you called my family parasites and I got mad at you? You were right. I'm sorry. Also, I need your help with something. She responded in under a minute with 3 words. Rosalind sent back, I'm listening. Coffee?
We met that afternoon at a cafe in Willowbrook, and I told her everything. The years of payments, the guilt, the manipulation, the Lake Tahoe vacation demand and the apartment crisis, and the group chat attacks. Rosalind listened without interrupting, and when I finished, she looked at me with something like pride. She stated, So you finally stood up to them. Good. What's the plan now? I took a breath. I answered, I'm going to that dinner tomorrow, and I'm going to tell them exactly how much money I've given them over the years, every single dollar, in front of everyone. Rosalind grinned. She said, I'm coming with you. The next day, I spent 3 hours preparing. I printed out bank statements going back 5 years. I highlighted every payment to my mother, Logan, and Brianna in different colors. I created a simple spreadsheet with dates, amounts, and descriptions. Rent, car insurance, groceries, school supplies, family dinners, birthday parties, emergency loans that were never paid back. The total came to $67,000. $67,000 in 5 years. I stared at that number and felt dizzy. That was more than my entire first year's salary out of college. That was a luxury car.
That was a serious chunk of retirement savings. That was my life, handed over piece by piece to people who never said thank you. Rosalind picked me up at 3:30 and we drove to Brianna's house in Hartfield Acres. It was a rental, of course, and I knew exactly who paid the security deposit 2 years ago when they moved in. Me. We parked in the driveway behind Logan's car, the one I'd co-signed for and paid off after he destroyed my credit. I grabbed my folder of bank statements and took a deep breath. Rosalind squeezed my hand. She encouraged, "You've got this, and if anyone tries to gaslight you, I'm back up." We walked up to the front door. I could hear voices inside, laughter and music. Through the window, I saw my mother sitting on the couch with a glass of wine, looking relaxed and happy. Logan was in the kitchen grabbing a beer. Brianna was setting out appetizers on the dining table. They all looked so comfortable, so content, funded by money they never earned. I rang the doorbell. Brianna answered with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Brianna greeted, "Oh, you actually came, and you brought a friend." Rosalind smiled back, equally cold. Rosalind responded, "I'm moral support." We walked inside. The house smelled like roasted ham and vanilla candles. My mother looked up from the couch, and her expression shifted from surprise to forced warmth. My mother called out, "Felicity, I'm so glad you're here. Come sit down. We're just about to eat." I stayed standing. I announced, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Actually, I need to talk to all of you first, before we eat." The room went quiet. Logan turned from the kitchen with his beer halfway to his mouth. Brianna stopped arranging crackers on a plate. Even my Aunt Francine, who I hadn't noticed sitting in the corner, looked up from her phone. My mother's smile tightened. She suggested, "Can it wait until after dinner? We're all hungry." I shook my head. I declared, "No, it can't wait." I opened my folder and pulled out the spreadsheet. My hands were shaking, but my voice stayed steady.
I began. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said, Mom. About how I'm selfish. About how I turned my back on my family. And I realized you're right about one thing. We need to put everything on the table." I held up the spreadsheet. I continued. "This is every payment I've made to this family over the last 5 years. Every rent payment, every car insurance bill, every grocery run, every family dinner I paid for, every emergency loan that never got paid back." My mother's face went pale. I read from the paper. I listed. "Mom, I've given you $41,000. Logan, you've received $14,000. Brianna, $12,000. That's $67,000 total." The silence in that room was deafening. Logan tried to laugh it off. Logan scoffed. "Come on, you didn't keep track of all that. You're exaggerating." I pulled out the bank statements and dropped them on the coffee table. I countered. "These are printed directly from my bank. Dates, amounts, descriptions. It's all here. 41,000 to Mom, 14,000 to you." His face flushed red. Brianna jumped in, defensive. Brianna argued, "We're family. That's what family does. You help each other." I turned to her. I shot back. "Help each other? That's interesting. Because when I was 23 and needed someone to co-sign my first apartment lease, where were you? When I was working 2 jobs to pay for school, who helped me? When my car broke down and I needed a ride to work for 2 weeks, who gave me one?" She looked away. I pressed. "Nobody. The answer is nobody. I did everything myself, and the second I had any money, you all lined up with your hands out." My mother stood up, her voice sharp. My mother snapped, "How dare you come into your sister's home and attack us like this? We raised you. We gave you everything." Something inside me broke completely. I laughed, and it sounded harsh even to my own ears. I corrected. "You raised me? You gave me everything? Mom, you borrowed $4,000 from me when I was 19 and never paid it back. You made me co-sign for Logan's car and then stuck me with the payments when he bailed. You've been living in an apartment that I pay for. I've bought your groceries for 4 years." I turned to everyone in the room. I addressed them all. And not once, not one single time did any of you say thank you. Not once did you ask if I could afford it. You just expected it, like I was some kind of unlimited resource. Aunt Francine cleared her throat. Francine interjected. Well, you do make good money, dear. You can't blame them for assuming you'd be generous. I stared at her. I retorted, You can't blame them for assuming I'd be a doormat. There's a difference between being generous and being used. If you've ever had to stand up to family members who took advantage of you financially, let me know in the comments how it went, because what happened next changed everything. My mother tried a different approach, her voice softer now. My mother pleaded, Felicity, sweetheart, we love you. We didn't realize you were keeping score like this. If we'd known it bothered you... I cut her off. I interrupted. It's not about keeping score. It's about respect. It's about treating me like a person instead of a bank account. And it's about the fact that when I finally said no to one thing, just one $8,000 request, you called me selfish and turned the entire family against me. Logan tried to speak up. Logan started, Look, maybe we got a little heated, but... I held up my hand. I stated flatly, I'm not finished. Here's what's going to happen going forward. I will not be giving anyone in this family any more money. Not for rent, not for groceries, not for vacations, not for braces or birthday parties or emergency apartment deposits, nothing. My mother gasped, like I'd physically struck her. Brianna found her voice. Brianna protested, You can't be serious. What if we actually have an emergency? I looked her dead in the eye. I replied, Then you'll figure it out the same way I did when I had emergencies and nobody helped me. You'll get a job, you'll make a budget, you'll ask someone else, because I'm done. The room erupted. Logan called me ungrateful. Brianna said I was punishing them for asking for help. My mother started crying, loud, dramatic sobs that I recognized as performance. Aunt Francine shook her head in disgust. Francine proclaimed, I can't believe how cold you've become. Money really does corrupt people. I gathered my papers and looked at Rosalind. I said simply, We're leaving. As we walked toward the door, my mother called out one last time. My mother shouted, If you walk out that door, don't bother coming back. We don't need you. I turned and looked at her. I responded, You're right. You don't need me. You need my money, and you're not getting it anymore. We left. The drive home was quiet. Rosalind didn't say anything until we pulled into my driveway. Then she turned to me and smiled. Rosalind stated, I'm proud of you. I felt tears building up, but they weren't sad tears. I admitted, I just burned every bridge in my family. She shook her head. Rosalind corrected, No, you just stopped setting yourself on fire to keep them warm. Within 3 days, I was blocked by everyone. My mother, Logan, Brianna, even my Aunt Francine. The family group chat was deleted. It was like I'd never existed. And for the first time in my adult life, my bank account started growing instead of draining. I picked up hobbies I'd put off because I couldn't afford them. I booked a solo vacation to Portland for spring. I increased my retirement contributions. I bought new furniture. I lived my life for me. 6 months later, Logan texted me from a new number. Logan's message read, Hey, I know things got weird, but I'm in a tough spot and need to borrow $2,000. Can you help? I read the message twice. Then I blocked the number and went back to watching my show. Because I finally understood something important. Being family doesn't mean letting people destroy you financially. It doesn't mean sacrificing your future for people who wouldn't do the same for you. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is say no. And sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away from people who see you as an ATM instead of a person. My family expected me to financially support them forever. I expected them to treat me like family instead of a resource. We were both disappointed, but only one of us is thriving now.